Hello and welcome to the Critically Curious. I'm a Monk, and we are joined once again by Gavin. And this, guys, is hashtag number 2 podcast. Today's video, as the title suggests, is all about demos and hashtag bring demos back. I don't know what happened to them. We kind of loved them, and that's the subject of today. And we're just going to be talking about the future of gaming and how that's kind of drifting towards no physical
Media.
versions of the games that we love today.
Yeah, demos of, I mean, for a lot of the older generation now, the young generation, not so much, but the older generation, demos were a big part of it. That's how you found out there was a new game or
Do
there
you
was
know what? I
something.
never even thought about that. The kids of today, they probably
Yeah,
don't
they
even
don't.
really know what a demo disc was, at least, you know.
Probably not, no, because like we were saying before, magazines, you get them in magazines, and it wasn't just one demo, it wasn't just one game. It was you get like 5 or 6 demos in a disc, and sometimes it'd be games that you wouldn't say if you're out shopping, you wouldn't think, oh, I'll play that game, pick it up.
Yeah.
It'd be you'd see on the demo and you'd be like, I'll give it a go, try it, and you'd be like, that was great. Then
Yeah.
you're gonna pick it up, but
You see, my
yeah.
partner, she's actually surprisingly a big time gamer, but she won't play a game she never played before.
Well, not
Which is why she
just.
gets like stuck on one game, and it's only because she sees me playing a game. She's like, "Oh, that looks quite
I'll
good."
try that. Yeah. You see, mine doesn't play games. Mine, yeah, I've tried. The best I've ever got it to play was Zoo Tycoon on the DS. That's
Okay.
it.
Does
That
she
was
like
it.
it?
She loved it. She played that for years, but I even downloaded the version for the Xbox,
Right.
and
Yeah.
I bought that, and she's never once played it. So
Live and learn. Live and
yeah.
learn. I've currently got my partner hooked on Ark, so it is what it is. But anyway, so demos, right? So I don't know about you, but in my head, when I think of demos, I've got one very specific that I loved, and I replayed it again and again and again. And back then, you'd go out, you buy your magazine, you get your demo disc, and you'd get like a good segment of time or a level or a part of a game that you could constantly replay, right? And for me, it was Shadow of the Colossus. Now, for anyone who has never played that game or seen it, I will put a picture up for you guys. But Shadow of Colossus was amazing. You was like this little dude. You'd run around and you have to kill or conquer this giant. This absolutely gigantic thing. And the game was full of them. But this demo allowed you to do exactly one. And you rode around a little horse, and I still hear arrow. You press the button, it'd say arrow. I still hear it in my voice today. But I loved that demo. It was absolutely amazing. Fantastic game. Sadly, I never went out and brought the game itself, but I loved that demo.
The demo was enough.
That demo had 8 different games on it, right? I've got them here. It had Shadow of the Colossus. It had The Suffering, Ties That Bind, Legend of Kai, Burnout Revenge, LA Russ, One Piece, which was it was a One Piece Grand Battle. I never was into the anime, but it's interesting that they had a game back out then because they've got a live action coming out on Netflix really soon.
Oh yeah.
It also had Star Wars Battlefront 2, which is, as we know today, an actual, a pure classic. I actually have the physical over there.
Yeah.
But yeah, Star Wars Battlefront 2, one of the best Star Wars games ever made. It had Indigo and some other stuff as well, but it had a good ton of games that you could try
Decent
and
games.
play out and stuff like that. And it's just such a shame because for people like my partner, they don't want to go out, especially the price of games today.
Oh,
They don't want to go out and spend 70 quid on a game that they ain't necessarily going to like. So demos were a fantastic way back then to get you a bit of a teaser into it, wasn't it?
well, it's. I mean, you go out and you pick up games nowadays. You spend a fortune on them, and if you didn't like them, you take them back. I mean, most stores that I know of wouldn't take it back for the price you paid for it. They'd take it back as a
No.
pre-owned game,
Yeah,
and then
absolutely.
you're losing money straight away for a game that you picked up. You hoped you'd enjoy, but no. But
And that's where demos came in and allowed us to
yeah,
actually play. Look, there's a couple of things with that, and I have to ask yourself, or you have to ask yourselves, why aren't demos a thing today? I feel like one of those things are, um, is it because of the physical copies aren't
mhm.
necessarily a thing anymore, and would they be too expensive? Would they actually be worth the money today?
I think a lot of companies would lose out. So you've got games like, let me think of something that was really bad. The Mafia 3, I think it was. That was a really bad.
That's
I
so
mean, it was a
funny.
great game as it is, but when it first released, it
Controversial.
was terrible.
The reason I say it's
The
controversial, I've literally
bugs,
just recorded a review for Mafia
uh,
for all of the Mafia games, so it's funny you mentioned that.
right. Okay, so I may have put my foot on it a bit, but yeah, when it was first released, it was buggy. It was, the gameplay wasn't great, but obviously with
Well,
updates
it
and things
wasn't
like
what
that,
people expected at all, was it?
exactly.
I think that
But
was the big thing.
I think if you're releasing demos for games like that, as they are when they're coming out, people are going to be like, "Well, I'm not paying for this because it's not something that you're going to enjoy." So without releasing a demo, you're getting that sale no matter what.
Yeah,
And then obviously some companies will allow refunds. You've got like Steam, you've got I think PlayStation and Xbox do it now for digital.
I believe
If you,
it's if you have less than an hour. Now, I've done it like
yeah.
once or twice, but if you have less than an hour of gameplay, you'll get your money back.
Yeah, Steam. I don't know if Steam's 40 minutes or an hour. I'm not sure, but sometimes you've got certain games which the intro to the game's about 40 minutes to an hour long. So you're not actually
Yeah.
getting into the game by the time you've run out of
Well, it's
your refund.
interesting you say that because I know that, for instance, it is possible not necessarily to get a demo discs like before, but you can certainly get some things on a demo or a trial. PlayStation 5 have
Mhm.
a habit of trying to do a few different demos. I think that not FIFA, EA, they do
Yeah,
a 10-hour trial of a lot of their games
you
nowadays
see, I've
too.
seen that on here. Yeah.
10 hours is very generous, to be
Oh
fair.
yes. I
Um,
mean, you can if you, as they say, sweat it out and play a game. You could probably complete a game in the 10 hours that it takes for the trial.
So, well, I think some of them absolutely, but again, that's where I think that it's weird because I would say that demos are a perfect way for indie games to get a little bit of recognition,
Yeah,
but some of those indie games are relatively small. You're talking like 10 hours max on
yeah,
them. So if they release a demo for it, that's probably a big chunk of
yeah.
that game that it has. But it is interesting because I do think that demos would be a good way for indies to
To
at least get their
get the
games
word out.
talked about.
Yeah, I mean, you've also got the fact of what they put in the demos. Say if they put one sort of little level, if it's um if it's something that costs a lot. I mean, small indie companies aren't going to have the budget to print, say, 100,000 demos to send out. That's
Yeah.
going to be a massive chunk of their budget in the
Well, I'm
end.
still surprised there isn't some kind of company out there that thinks it is a viable option, to
Yeah,
get in contact with these demos, or with these publishers, to try and get a segment of their game to at
and
least
they
show
publish
it
it,
off a
sort of
little bit.
thing, and they
Yeah,
get, say, a percentage of it off the top. But from what I read online, is the reason demos are sort of no longer a thing is the likes of Steam has a thing called early access where publishers can
yeah,
release things while they're still working on them. But again, you're still paying for it. You might be paying a slightly lesser price, but you're still paying for it. But these things may never then eventually come out. There's quite a few games which you get in early access that will never be released,
yeah.
and
I think
it's
that's really true. I think that early access is almost its own subject in a way because is that really good for gaming? Are we getting quality for our money? I think there's two different sides to kind of talk about there with early access as well.
yeah, yeah. If there's certainly a lot of games, there's certainly a lot of developers who will now just put a game out on early access for people to buy, and you'll realise it's an asset flip where they can get the um, bits for the games and that for free off of Unity,
Yeah.
and they're just basically trying to make a quick buck, which is I
Well,
mean, some
sometimes they're
people
trying to
do.
raise money for the game to
Yeah.
actively develop it. I think like Empire of Sin when that very first released, it wasn't necessarily a overhyped game, but I think it had enough of an idea of what people wanting to play
What
it.
it wants to be.
Um,
Yeah.
but it released broken, I think,
Yeah.
and I think that they used the money that they got from that to then fix it. The game it is today isn't the game on release, but I think because it released broken, it massively hindered any chances it had of
Yeah.
progressing.
Well, look at Cyberpunk. That was a massive company, a massive
Huge.
game, and that released terrible. And nowadays, if you say to someone, "I'll play Cyberpunk," the first thing they go to is, "Oh no, it's terrible."
It's
But
a it's a fixed game though, from what I've heard.
yeah,
Not that I've replayed it, but it's supposed to be
it's
massively improved.
yeah. I mean, the DLCs that it's got, there's a lot of stuff that they've put into it now, and I believe now it is a game that is worth playing. But again, you've always got the look back on it. That was a terrible game when it was released, so people won't touch it. But you've got to give these things a chance. But some companies will not. When they release something, they'll get a bit what's the word for it? Sort of hepped up about it and not try and fix it because they feel that they put enough into it. But sometimes you've got to give it out to even if they do a select um,
I feel like
set.
I feel like a big part of that is because they don't have the game testers that they used to have back in
Yeah,
the day. Back in PlayStation 2 days, Xbox days, when a game came out, that was it. When it came out,
yeah,
that was the game you got. It was 100% done. Today, we've got the internet, we've got hot patches, we've got downloads. I mean, most of our stuff comes from digital downloads now anyway. Even when if you
oh
get
yeah,
a disc, it's digitally downloaded.
yeah,
So they can actively mend it on the go. They don't
oh
need
yeah,
those 100 game testers anymore. You're lucky if you get two on a game these days.
oh yeah. Well, I had a friend who used to work for Sony, and he was a Q&A tester, and I mean, I always thought when I was younger that the best thing you could ever do was be a video game tester.
Yeah,
But he
me
said
too.
to me, it's not because you get given one simple task, like run into that wall 50 times and just see what happens, or repeatedly try and kill this NPC who you
Yeah,
can't normally kill.
I did that
And
for
he's
Empire of Sin, and it was
yeah,
to try and
you
break the game.
basically you try and break. Well, there is YouTubers out there now who their whole part of playing the game is trying to break it. Like, have you ever seen the Spiff and Brit?
I've heard of him. Yeah, no, no,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
so
no, yeah.
yeah, he's absolutely fantastic, but he does it where no matter what he does. I mean, he broke YouTube, he broke Steam itself. He doesn't condone some of the stuff he does, but he plays the games to break them.
Yeah.
And there's another guy, I think it's called Let's Game It Out, and he plays it, and he as he's playing the game, his head will just go somewhere, and he thinks, "I wonder if I can how many entities I can spawn at the same time," and that's it. Then for the next 40 minutes or an hour, he's just spawning entities to see how laggy he can create the game. But it's all fun. It's all something that it's enjoyable, but you know, I think if you had a set like a batch of people who were the testers for every company, I mean, you'd have a lot of people playing the same games over and over. But I think that would be something that
I think
would
it
entice
used to
people.
happen a lot though. I think they
Oh yeah,
used to have a lot, but it's just not feasible these days. I think the
no,
companies, you get a lot smaller companies these days, don't you? Not necessarily indie companies, but even just AA companies, like for instance maybe Calypso Media. They wouldn't
yeah,
necessarily call themselves a AAA rated publisher, but they do quite in depth games. But they don't
yeah.
have the money to kind of employ 100 people to test a game.
No, another thing that I seen was I'm not sure who made it, but there was a game called Redfall, and
Oh yeah,
when
that was Bethesda, dude.
was it
Yeah,
okay? So
Starfield's coming up. We're going to be talking about Starfield a little bit later.
oh, that should be fun. But they apparently, when they got a few streamers in and a few YouTubers in to test and play the game, they obviously signed an NDA and they weren't allowed to discuss the game until it was released.
Yeah,
Now, to me, that's really shady because if you're going there to test the game, you want to, when you come out, you want to be like, okay, this game was fantastic. Definitely wait for it to come out. Or this game was terrible. I don't know what they're thinking, why they're making something like this.
So
And
it happens. It happens so much. Like
yeah,
even with our little YouTube channel, when it comes
yeah,
to getting certain keys for certain games or talking to certain publishers, they will say, look, if you find a problem, you can't show it, you can't share it, and of
mm,
course it's up to you as the YouTuber, as the reviewer, whether you accept that key
yeah.
and sign that or not. It unfortunately
You see,
happens an awful lot.
I think there should be some leeway. I think if it's something, say, if you're playing a game that's early access and you've signed an NDA and they've said, if you find anything, let us know about it. Or if it's something that you think, oh, that can definitely be fixed, that can be something that can be fixed quite easily when the game comes out. Or there was ones, I think it was one of the Star Wars games where you have to pay so much to progress in it, or you have
Okay.
to put in so many hours just to get one character unlocked. Now, I don't know if
Star
I'm
Wars
remembering.
Battlefront 2, possibly
Yeah, what
the
I'm
newer ones.
yeah, because what I'm remembering is that when it was tested beforehand, when it was shown to streamers and things like that, there wasn't any in-game purchases. But then when the game released, there was in-game purchases. So it was something they were keeping back from showing you know the
Yeah,
the
I
general
think
pub.
a lot of it has to do with just how early they get it. If they get
Yeah,
it, like these games are in development for years now. I mean, they talk about games needing 5 years, 6 years, 7 years of development to even be able to complete these days. So, I think
yeah.
depending on how early you get access to that game, it massively on the amount of restrictions you actually get of what you can cover. And some publishers, they don't want those bugs shown because
No,
obviously they're hoping that they will be fixed before release.
publish. See, it's understandable. Some bugs you look at and you're like, why was that? Why was that released when that could be something that's so game breaking?
Yeah,
And then I like a lot of games we get nowadays. You get day one patches where there's patches coming out as soon as the game's released, and that fixes a lot of the pre-release bugs. I mean, I'm a big believer of give them a chance. If it's something they can sort, then they definitely sort it. But if they're just doing it and they're not, listening to the fan base, or they're not fixing the things they should be because they're thinking more of their bottom line more than, the
well,
people
some
who are going to
developers are very
continue
good at
to
it.
play.
I think
Yeah,
some are better than others, unfortunately. And there's no real. I don't think there's anyone that regulates it at all,
no,
which is a bit of a shame for us consumers. I mean, I'm sure there is some kind of regulators out there, but it feels like there necessarily, you know, isn't. And I also think that download size is a massive part. These games are so big these
yes,
days,
yeah,
and perhaps that goes a long way into explaining why certain games aren't getting physical editions, um,
because
which
of the
is
disc.
a real shame because me personally, I love having a physical collection of whatever, and I don't think it should have to cost £100 or £150 to get hold of
Yeah,
a physical copy of a game, and that physical copy may happen to have a booklet or something extra
yeah.
inside. It used to be gaming standard, which is a real shame.
A
The
manual. Yeah,
Witcher 3, when that first released, I remember that having stickers inside, posters inside, um, a map, a little book, and stuff like that. And that was a standard edition. That wasn't anything
no,
on
that
top
was
or a
yeah,
deluxe edition or stuff like that. I mean, I've got games here. We have Red Dead 2 that released
mm,
recently, and that has a full size map inside of it, which is pretty
okay.
cool.
I was gonna say you don't normally get that nowadays. I
Exactly,
didn't
I
think.
think
Yeah,
Rockstar kind of done a good thing there. But then
yes,
again, you've got, for instance, Metal Gear Solid 2. That
yeah,
actually has a little manga inside of it, which personally I think is pretty awesome. I mean,
yeah,
a little manga inside, a little story,
yeah.
and
Little
it's a
something.
complete freebie. Has no extra, monetary value to it. It just happens to be
No,
that they wanted to give the fans and the gamers a little bit extra.
a little bit of something. Yeah. little bit of something to. I mean, it was always one thing that when you were bored and that if you weren't playing the games, you could always read the manuals. I mean, with
The
get a video,
manuals, yeah.
yeah,
Like, I mean, half of my job as a YouTuber today is to tell people how to do different mechanics within a game, because the game
yeah,
comes with almost no tutorial, no
no,
instructions, or anything like that. Whereas the Final Fantasy collection up there, they've each got a manual inside detailing how to
they're
use the magic
massive.
system
Yeah,
or how to use the aeons. You know, it's crazy the lack of information available to
yes,
people these days. I mean, again, me as a YouTuber, I remember playing a game, Dynasty Warriors. I played Dynasty Warriors,
yeah.
Empires, the last one to come out. I started playing it. I got early access to it. I didn't understand a few of the mechanics. I remember messaging the developers and said, "Hey, you know, you got any idea how this mechanic works?" They said, "No."
And that was the developer.
And I was like, seriously? It's like, yeah, I'm
Uh,
sure. I'm sure. You know, there will be a YouTuber out there that will detail it eventually. And I was just so shocked that even directly asking a developer, you know, this conversation I had, you know, we had a pretty good relationship with. They didn't know
yeah,
one of the basic mechanics of the game.
that
Um,
that
it wasn't in the game
yeah.
either. You know, it was something that you as a player had to find out. You had to work out just how many of this or what to do that. And I just found that so fascinating.
That to me, I mean, I'd understand if he was like, "That's not my part of that's not my field. That's what I didn't work on." But I'll speak to one of the other guys who knows working on it and see if I can find out a bit of information. But no, I'm not. No, not really. There'll be a video on it eventually. So
Yeah, I just found
you know,
that so bizarre. But me personally, I think the fact that Starfield is a game that we've been waiting for Bethesda to release for so many years now, and
yeah,
I find it quite interesting that they're not releasing a physical copy of the game, and I wonder if that's because of the
limiting
technology that would be
size.
involved in putting it on a disc, or if it's just not financially worth them shipping off physical
Yeah,
copies
paying
anymore.
for the. I mean, it's to me again. I think it's all bottom line with it. It's yeah,
Trying to make
they're
that
paying
profit.
for discs. Yeah, it's about as much profit as you can get from it. I mean, look at Grand Theft Auto. You know, the online aspect of Grand Theft Auto just by itself has made Rockstar. I think it was 7.7 billion to date, and
It's
that's just
crazy.
the online.
I
Yeah,
think that if they never
yeah.
released, if I mean, how old? Do you know how old GTA 5 is now? Because I know you, for
10 years,
instance, 10 years.
10 years old. Yeah.
So for anyone that
Now,
doesn't know, Gavin is someone who loves the GTA
oh
5, but he's brought the game on about every single platform you could possibly buy it
yes,
on. You know,
multiple
stretching
times as well.
three
Yeah.
generations of gaming.
Yes, Xbox 360 to the Xbox One to the Series X now. I bought it on PC, bought it on PlayStation 3, PS4. Saying that, I haven't bought it on PS5 because I don't have PS5, so
There's
I'm
always
missing one.
time. Always
I need to
time.
buy a PS5 just to buy it. Yeah, and then I
Yeah.
can continue it.
But I feel
But
like if online never came out, we'd probably be on GTA 8 by now. You know, it wouldn't be a
yes,
case of GTA 6 coming out in
no,
X amount of years, because they made so much money in online that for them it just wasn't ever worth it. There was no
no,
DLCs ever released for it that I know of,
story mode, no.
and
Well, there was, I think,
it was always
I'm not
rumored there
sure.
was going to be one.
I always hoped there was because the story I thought was absolutely fantastic. I mean, when they released Red Dead Redemption 2, the story for that was absolutely fantastic, and I was hoping they released DLC for that.
Hmm.
But it's sort of since Grand Theft Auto Online, I think they've put other games to the back burner, which is, I think, with Red Dead Redemption they missed a big um a, a, a big fan base with that because it was such a fantastic game.
I
I
agree.
mean, the ending alone, obviously, spoiler alert. If you got the bad ending, you were like, okay, well, what's the other end? So you play for it again,
Yeah,
and
and
then
it's a big game. That's not a
yeah,
little
I think
playthrough.
was there four endings or three? I'm not
I
sure.
honestly can't remember now. I think I got two of them,
I've
but
got two.
I figured out
Yeah,
that there's a cut off point in the middle of the game where you could just load that save
yes,
and just
and
do
you could
slightly different.
get each.
Yeah, but yeah, it's a shame because I think that too many companies today are too money happy, and we spoke about it in
Yes,
the last episode, the last podcast we done, that the gaming industry is probably worth more than the music industry and the film industry combined. But yet
probably.
you still have all these companies, huge companies, trying to get that bottom line as high as possible, and that's not for the gamers, that's for them.
Mm. Well, I mean, from out of my head, I can't name a movie or even just a single movie that's made more anywhere near 7.7 billion for one aspect of it.
No,
I mean,
no, I
that
guess
was
not.
just the online. That to me is unfathomable. I mean, take 5 billion of that, make the next GTA.
12 seconds later.
GTA. I think we were talking about the So yeah, the online had made something stupid like 7.7 billion, and that was just the online aspect. That wasn't including the pre-sales for the story mode, and I mean nowadays you can actually buy the story and the online separate, which is is mad
Yeah,
because
it's true. I actually downloaded the online mode the other day. I didn't even mean to.
it
I
just
downloaded just the online mode, not the actual story mode. I was like, oh, I didn't even realize they'd done them separate now. And I know that
yeah
Red Dead, obviously, they have completely separate online mode and story
online
mode as well.
yeah,
Yeah,
but
I just think that today gaming industry is a little bit too money happy. I
yes.
understand it's a business, but at the end of the day, us as the customers perhaps need to start kicking back with no
Yeah.
pre-orders.
Well, this is the thing people keep saying: don't pre-order anymore. No more pre-orders, because I mean we're giving them money for something that's not done and something we don't always get the what we want out of it. So
Did you
it's
hear about a game called Settlers? Now, Settlers is a franchise that's been out for quite a while.
I've heard of it before.
This year they had a big game release and a big installment to the game, or at least it was big for console because it was jumping over the console for one of the first times in a very long time, or
Yeah.
perhaps ever. I was looking to grab that game myself. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, it was delayed. Now, that was after it had pre-orders, and a lot of people did actually pre-order the game. It was delayed without really any kind of information as to why it's delayed, when it was going to be shipped and released next, and almost no information whatsoever, because I was trying to find out this information myself. And then it was dropped, as in made public for people to play, almost with no notice or information warning whatsoever that people could actually play their game. Some people didn't even realize it was delayed until the day of release came and there was no game to actually download whatsoever. And when they actually finally got to play it, they turned out that the content involved in the game was no better than a mobile game, and this was a £50 game.
Jeez, you see
that was like last month, 2 months ago.
It was like I think Diablo. They released that a while back and there was a big, massive press release for it, and then they dropped the bombshell that it was mobile, and I think the whole thing was people were like, mobile. We don't want to play it on mobile. We want to play it on game. We want to play it on the consoles. We want to play it on PC. So I think a lot of companies think nowadays that mobile is the way to go, but I don't think it's something. I think for maybe a casual game, mobile is okay, but
Yeah, I
to
agree.
me,
They recently released Ark on mobile. I can't believe that's on mobile. It's far too
I was going to say how is.
hands-on for that.
I mean, I know they had it
And they've
on.
got COD, haven't they? They've got Call of Duty on mobile as
Yes,
well.
but
I think that's insane. I couldn't
how
play
they
that
can.
on there, to be fair.
I mean, they had PUBG. I mean, but that was not too graphic intense, so it was okay. But it's amazing how some. I mean, you look at some of the phones nowadays, and they've got more computing power than most PCs had years ago.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's mental, but
I
we
think
don't.
it's weird because 5 years ago, maybe a little bit more, digital downloads were very, very expensive, and
Yes.
to a certain degree they still are. Then they kind of leveled out to be as expensive as a physical copy game. And I think the rumor or the thought, the idea was always that the digital in the end was going to be a little bit cheaper than a physical copy of a game. And that never really happened. And we seem to be in this phase now where we are just going away with physical copies altogether. And I think me personally, that's a real shame.
For collectors, it's. I mean, you never add to your collection. It's something that a lot of people pride themselves on.
Not
I
only
mean,
that, but some people lose their accounts. You know,
yeah,
if you these days, if you lose your account and you can't get it back for whatever reason, I
yeah.
mean that's your entire history gaming library gone. You know, you've got
Yes,
people growing up today, kids growing up today, that have been playing games their whole lives. Their entire collection is digital only.
digital only. Yeah,
I mean, that's crazy. If they lose
yeah.
their entire gaming life in one go, and I think that's a real shame.
Yeah, I mean, I when the PS4s first came out, I had a PS4. I just transitioned from the PS3, and my account was from the PS3. I think from the email I received from Sony was that the PS3 was compromised. Someone had used it for hacking, so they banned the PS3 and then banned my account on the PS4. But there was about £200 worth of games on the PS4, and I was like, "Well, what do I do about the games?" And they're like, "Well, you can't do nothing about it because it's now banned." So I was a big PlayStation fanboy. Anything PlayStation, I'd happily get. But since then, I've stayed away from PlayStation. I've not gone back. I sold my PS4, bought an Xbox, and I haven't looked back since. Because even if they said to me, well, if we can get down to the nitty gritty, make sure that it wasn't you who caused the issue, then we'll sort out some form of compensation. That would have been fine because
Yeah, yeah.
they've taken the time to help me with the issue, but nothing. I got an email saying nothing you can do
Well, that's
about
the
it.
thing though. Like you
Games
were
are gone.
saying back then, you had 200 quid's worth of games. Nowadays it would be thousands.
Yeah.
Games are
Oh,
seriously
yeah.
expensive, which again I feel like is a massive reason why hashtag bring demos back
Yes.
is a really good thing and a good
Oh,
opportunity. I think sometimes for like we said earlier for indie games. I mean, um, I don't think the actual magazine is still around today. The original magazine, the one that sold my demo back then was PlayStation Magazine, the official PlayStation Magazine.
I remember them.
Now that shut down in like 2012, but there's still gaming magazines around today.
Yeah.
So there's
They're
nothing
very few and
stopping
far
them.
between, and a lot of them are digital nowadays as well. But I mean, that was one thing I used to love, getting a gaming magazine.
Yeah,
What was going to be in it if you got
it
one
would
that
be
was
cool.
all
Yeah,
sealed. Yeah. I mean, well, I agree with saying before. You got sometimes you got demos, sometimes you got
cheat codes.
cheat codes, like a little booklet full of cheat codes. That
Yeah,
was
yeah,
fantastic. I mean, look at you had San Andreas back in the background there.
yeah, yeah. And
Unless
everyone knew
you,
about the little money glitch or
yeah, it's
whatever you'd put in.
yeah, it's beyond me because it's something that is pure nostalgia, and I mean, some people will look at it like,
But
oh,
is
it's a
that
waste of paper.
saying that the modern era of gaming has put an end to all of that and put it to bed
Yeah,
forever? The internet, obviously, being able to have so much at our
the
fingertips
fingertips. Yeah.
within seconds, which is why I guess newspapers, magazines, all of that are a thing of the past almost.
I
Um,
think once I,
going
it,
that way.
yeah, it's horrible to say, but once the older generation, our parents or our grandparents pass away, I think a lot of not digital, sorry, a lot of physical
Physical,
media
yeah.
will disappear. I think everything will be online. It'll be sort of like your Netflix, where instead of downloading a movie to watch, it's just there ready to stream.
Game
Um,
Pass.
yeah,
Well,
Game Pass is
PlayStation have got their own
yeah.
one now as well, haven't they?
It's you see, I know they had PlayStation Plus, but I'm not sure about their sort
It's
of
fully up and running
taking
now.
in.
They've got, I believe it's called Spartan, PlayStation Spartan.
I've not read about that, so
I
I'm gonna have to have a
haven't.
look.
I mean, I've got PlayStation 5, but I
Yeah,
haven't necessarily looked into it massively. I know they don't compete with
Game
Game
Pass.
Pass
Yeah,
for a variety of different reasons, and maybe we can talk about that in another episode.
yeah.
I
Day
feel like we
one
should
releases.
end this podcast with a
Yes.
question to everyone now. And that's that: would you guys actually go out and buy a physical copy or a physical disc of a demo today? Back then it retailed for around $8.50. I don't know what that is in pounds, like £6.50 maybe. Today with inflation it'd be around £12 or $12. Would you go out and buy it if it had the year's upcoming games? I mean, would you, Gav?
Oh, I definitely would. For me, it'd be a no-brainer because it'd be something that I could, if it had a couple of demos on it, it's something that I could then look forward to. Oh, I played this game on the demo.
Yeah.
I thought it was absolutely fantastic. I'd happily pre-order it then. If I knew it was going to be what it was like on the demo, I'd happily pre-order it. But I don't think we'd ever get back to that, which is sad to say. But yeah, I'd
It's
like
like
to know
Baldur's
what
Gate,
everyone else thinks.
Baldur's Gate 3 for me. That come out this week, I believe. It's retailing for 70 quid. That's how much you're going to have to buy it for, which is a lot of money. And although it's a game that I know I like, I'm still uncertain on spending that kind of money on it. And the same for Diablo 3 that came out a while ago, or Diablo 4. And again, I just don't know if I want to spend that kind of money on day one release for a game that I know nothing about.
I mean, the parents nowadays, if they have a couple of kids and a couple of kids who are gamers, it's never just one game they want, it's a couple of games. There's £70 a pop. There's a lot of money for a couple of games for
I mean,
a
back in
couple
the
of
day,
kids.
we'd get stuck on the same Crash Bandicoot level for
Oh, yeah.
4
But
years.
you shared it as well. You could, your brother would be like, "Oh, pass me it, I'll take it," and you'll take it upstairs with his PlayStation with the memory card, and you'd carry on playing it. But nowadays, sharing just doesn't work like that anymore. But yeah,
No. But anyway, guys, just want to thank you all for joining us on this podcast. We are going to be keeping rolling these episodes forward. So if you want the inside scoop, don't forget to join our Discord. The link is down below in the description. And of course, subscribe to the channel that we don't miss out on more episodes just like this. But until next time, I've been a monk.
I've been Gavin.
And we will see you in the next episode real soon. Until then, happy gaming.
See you later.